Greetings, it's Black Facts time once again. We're Black here in the studio, ready to bring you another presentation of Doc Ock at noon and 9. Tonight, we're coming live and direct with more about the life of the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So, before we get started, you know what we need to do. Need I say it? Yes, I do need to say it. So, number one, go ahead and give us a like if you're watching us on Facebook. Number two, give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. And number three, spread the word by word of mouth. Still the best advertisement. Far and wide, we need you to let your voice glide. Let everybody know from coast to coast without a boast what we're doing over here, because we're here to toast Black history twice a day at noon and 9. So you know what time it is right now. It is 9 o'clock, and we're about ready to rock. Let's see what we got. Words of wisdom from the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey today. All right. Okay. Here's a good one here. I like this one. It's one of my favorite ones. The power that holds Africa is not divine. The power that holds Africa is human. And it is recognized that whatsoever man has done, man can do. Keep that in mind. The power that holds Africa is not divine. The power that holds Africa is human. And it is recognized that whatsoever man has done, man can do. That's a real can-do spirit right there from Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Now, let's see what we got for you tonight. Yes. We're returning to the shady side of the street. The shady side. And what do we have here for you? But the Black Star Line. The Black Star Line and the Black Star Liner. Proud ships sailing in circles. Proud ships sailing in circles. When Garvey started his new shipping venture in 1919, he promised that the Black Star Line would make large profits for its investors. But the opportunity to make money was of secondary concern to many of the firm's stockholders. Far more important to them was that the Black Star Line gave them a tremendous feeling of hope about the future of their race. The cheering crowds that greeted the ships in every port they visited were filled with a newfound sense of pride when they saw the vessels flying the red, black, and green UNIA flag. While the multitudes cheered, however, some of Garvey's critics were asking a troublesome question. Did Garvey or any of his UNIA associates know anything about running a steamship line? The answer was no. The Black Star Line's board of managers had little business experience, period. Some of the line's officials were more intent on lining their own pockets than on operating a profitable shipping company. Garvey gave little thought as to what kind of ships he needed, how they should be maintained, what cargo they would carry, or where they would sail. He looked upon the ships as promotional tools that would be used to spread the UNIA's message. After purchasing the Black Star Line's flagship, known as the Yarmouth, Garvey announced that the vessel was being renamed the Frederick Douglass after the leading black spokesman of the anti-slavery movement in pre-Civil War America. The ship remained officially known as the Yarmouth because the Black Star Line, for financial reasons, failed to register under its new name. Garvey immediately scheduled a voyage to the West Indies and hired one of the only qualified black captains Joshua Cockburn to command the ship. On October 30th, thousands of Garveyites gathered at New York's 135th Street Pier to see the Yarmouth take off. The Grand Bon Voyage almost turned into a humiliating fiasco. Just before the scheduled departure, a representative of the Yarmouth's previous owners appeared with an order forbidding the ship to sail until it was fully insured. Garvey had only made a down payment on the ship, and the previous owner was nervous about the voyage. But with the excited crowd waiting nearby, the agent relented. The ship was allowed to sail, but only as far as the 23rd Street Pier. There, the ship remained until Garvey obtained the insurance. The Yarmouth finally departed from New York, but the initial delay was a sign of the troubles that the ship and the Black Star Line would undergo. The Yarmouth was hardly in tip-top shape. Its boilers were old and in need of repair, and the ship could rarely work up any speed at all. The Yarmouth was not a vessel to set a sailor's heart aflame, wrote Hugh Mulzac, an officer on the ship. He estimated that the vessel was worth less than 1/6 what the Black Star Line paid for it. Financially, the first voyage was a total loss. The Yarmouth sailed from New York nearly empty, and it carried few passengers and little cargo on its return trip. The ship was greeted by large crowds in every port it visited, and sales of company stock soared. But operating the ship was a huge financial drain. The Yarmouth's second voyage was no better than the first. Cockburn dumped half the ship's cargo of whiskey overboard, supposedly to lighten the ship after it started to list. A fleet of boats was raiding by the ship to salvage the jettisoned cargo, so the captain's actions seemed very suspicious, to say the least. The ship spent its second voyage ferrying between ports in the Caribbean, losing money on each trip. Many stops were made merely to promote Black Star Line stock. On the Yarmouth's return to the United States, Cockburn ran the ship aground in Boston, and Garvey fired him. The Yarmouth made one more unprofitable voyage and then was sold in late 1921 for a paltry $1,625. Neither of the Black Star Line's other two ships fared any better. In early 1920, Garvey purchased the Shady Side, a small 50-year-old excursion boat, for $35,000. The vessel was used for Hudson River pleasure cruises and catered to Harlemites who wanted to get away from the city on hot summer days, but the ancient Shady Side was costly to operate, and Garvey was forced to retire the ship after less than a year of service. The boat finally sank during a winter storm while tied up at its dock. The company's other ill-fated ship was the Kanawha, an old pleasure yacht that was purchased for $60,000 in 1920. The ship could only carry a small cargo, and like the Yarmouth, was used mainly to advertise the shipping line and raise money for the UNIA. After a series of engine failures that required expensive repairs, Garvey ordered that the ship be abandoned in Cuba. As early as November 1919, Garvey had promised that the Black Star Line would acquire a ship capable of sailing to African ports. By October 1920, the expenses of buying and operating the Yarmouth, Shadyside, and Kanawha had crippled the Black Star Line. To get around these difficulties, Garvey formed another enterprise, the Black Star Steamship Company of New Jersey, which could raise money for another vessel free of any legal connection to the financially troubled Black Star Line. The new corporation stock sold well, and Garvey began seeking a satisfactory ship, which he intended to name the Phillis Wheatley, after the first Black American poet. Several attempts were made to purchase such a vessel, but all ended in failure. By the end of 1921, Black Star shipping operations had nearly ceased. While the Black Star Line had been sailing into troubled waters, Garvey had also been pursuing other parts of his program. Chief among them were his efforts to secure an independent African homeland for all of the world's blacks. Many people believed that Garvey was intended to lead all blacks living outside of Africa in a return to the great continent. The UNIA therefore became known as a Back to Africa movement. But according to some of Garvey's close associates, he never envisioned a sudden mass immigration to Africa. He proposed only that a few thousand black people move to Africa and establish an independent nation committed to fighting for the rights of blacks everywhere. He did hope, however, that the initial groups would be followed by much larger immigrations over time. Garvey feared for blacks living in countries where they were a minority. He believed that continual demands for equality by American blacks would threaten whites and lead to increasingly violent racial conflicts. A strong African nation, however, might be able to force other countries to respect the rights of their black citizens. Some of Garvey's impoverished working class followers were swept up in the dream of escaping their troubles through the Back to Africa movement. But his critics charged that his ideas were hopelessly unrealistic. Black Americans, they said, must forget about moving to Africa, where they were total strangers, and concentrate on improving conditions in the United States. How could Black Americans go back to a place where they had never been? Garvey made several attempts to realize his dream of an African homeland. After World War I, the defeated Germans were stripped of their African possessions. In 1922, Garvey sent a delegation to the League of Nations, the predecessor of the United Nations, to ask that the former German colonies be turned over to the UNIA. The League briefly considered the petition, but the matter was later dropped, knowing that his chances of gaining a colony through the League of Nations was a long shot. Garvey had previously opened negotiations with the West African nation of Liberia over the possibility of establishing settlements of Black Americans there. Liberia had been founded in 1822 as a home for free Black Americans who wanted to return to Africa, and Garvey assumed that the Liberian government would welcome the UNIA settlers. At first, the Liberians seemed open to the idea, and Garvey promised that his organization would build colleges, factories, and railroads in the African nation. The UNIA sent a small team to make arrangements for the new settlements. The expedition soon ran out of money, however, and Garvey was too involved in other matters to follow through on his plans. By early 1924, Garvey was ready to make another try. This time, a UNIA delegation convinced Liberia to accept an initial settlement of a few thousand Americans. But by the summer of 1924, when UNIA officials arrived to make final arrangements, the Liberian president, Charles D.B. King's government had changed its position entirely. The delegation was told to go home. No settlements would be permitted at all. Garvey desperately appealed to the Liberians to reconsider their situation, but to no avail. Nowhere to go. King clearly had begun to suspect that the UNIA was planning to overthrow his government once it had established a strong presence in his country. The Liberians were also afraid that France or Britain might invade their nation if UNIA agitators began to stir up trouble. In that the UNIA and trouble in the surrounding colonial areas. And finally, the land that the UNIA had been promised was leased to the Firestone Rubber Company soon after the deal fell through. The setback in Liberia occurred 3 years after the beginning of a series of events that was to isolate Garvey from much of the black community and devastate the UNIA. In the spring of 1921, Garvey toured throughout the West Indies and Central America selling Black Star Line stock. Although he raised considerable amounts of money, Garvey had a difficult time re-entering the United States. The State Department declared him a dangerous radical and ordered the American consulates in the countries he was visiting to refuse to grant him a visa. The order was later rescinded, but Garvey was beginning to feel strong pressure from the U.S. government. Aware that he could easily be deported from the country by hostile government officials, he applied for U.S. citizenship. How about that? Now that's something I hadn't heard before. Well, we're going to break off right there, close out this session, but we will be back tomorrow at the very same time, in the very same place, as we continue to read from the book, Marcus Garvey, Black Nationalist Leader, coming out of the Chelsea Group Publishing Company, and is part of the Coretta Scott King Black Americans of Achievement series. So not a bad book. I mean, it goes into quite a few things and comes at things in a different way than the other books that I had here available in the Crosby Archive. So I consider it to be a very decent reference, a good reference. All right. Meanwhile, all you little children out there know what time it is. Don't make me have to give you a quiz, because I already know you a whiz that doesn't need no quiz. So what I need you to do right now is go ahead and take care of your business. Go ahead and lay your little head on your little pillow, on your little bed. Close those your eyes and wait on that sun to rise. And when you feel those sunbeams beaming down on your eyes, you'll know that it's time for you to rise and shine. Oh, children of mine. Greet the new day in a whole new way. If you hear what I say and understand what I mean, then when you get up in the new day, you're going to wake up with a sheen, because you're going to be super clean and twice as mean, in a good way. And in the meanwhile, for you adults, y'all know what to do as well. Give us a like if you're watching on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're watching on the tube, and then go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel, the place where we always handle our business, and sometimes we handle yours too. But we're looking for you to help lift this weight, lighten the load. Don't make us carry the whole load all by ourselves. Okay? Join in the fray, because we know that what we're putting down is helping you have a better day. Peace out without a doubt. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same time, same place. Don't forget to watch us at noon when we do our other piece, straight from the mouth of Garvey, we're reading. And so tomorrow we're going to finish off his address to the Second International Convention of the UNIA 1921. You won't want to miss that. Peace out without a doubt, with justice, of course. It's the only way to go. Peace with justice.